the county had developed an annual procurement plan which did not factor in a renovation and procurement of new office furniture for the deputy governor. We will show you that the former holder of that office had successfully served the people of Siaya and the people of Kenya with that office, with the same furniture that was there, without any condemnation by the Public Works Department. He walked into a functional office, but the first thing he did was to bully, intimidate for new furniture to be procured. We will show you through the witness that what at the beginning was a request for purchase of carpets and tiles turned to be about procuring chairs, presidential desks, and there's no president in Siaya at the moment, to the tune of up to 1.12 million Kenya shillings, one single chair. As we speak today, in disregard of the procurement plan, which didn't provide for it, the deputy governor caused the county to procure for his own personal use a single chair worth 1.12 million. We will show that evidence. He also proceeded to cost the county to procure a presidential table for his own personal benefit. Again, a presidential table.
Chair, could I please intervene?
Senator
I would want him to explain what a presidential chair is.
Senator Onyonga, what we agreed that we give the witness an opportunity to complete, and then at the end of these submissions, then we can ask the questions and he'll be able to respond. So that his time has been timed. So let us please.
Chair, with due respect, what I'm saying is I expect some simplification
He will when we ask questions.
Thank you.
Yes, please let us give the witness an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Senator. We are saying we are going to lead evidence that will demonstrate what those components are. A presidential table and a chair worth 1.12 million Kenya shillings. One single chair. And the invoices and the witnesses will show you what that was. We will also show you that the deputy governor, in ignoring the county procurement plan, forced his office to be soundproofed at the tune of almost 2 million Kenya shillings. Now, these we will demonstrate are inceptive acts that were done immediately he got into office. At the end of this personal comfort, the county had committed up to 18 million Kenya shillings for the personal comfort of an individual. And we will demonstrate that 18 million Kenya shillings constitute 20% of the county's bursary allocation. Over 2,000 high school students could have benefited from their school fees being paid from this money that was used for the personal comfort of an individual. We will demonstrate what 18 million shillings could have done to the people of Siaya and the people of Kenya. The poor women, the border riders, who contribute 20 shillings in cess and in parking fees every day, seeing that these little peanuts they contribute in cess and rates are used for the personal comfort of an individual without adhering to the law on procurement and the county's own procurement plan, as was approved by the county executive committee. We will demonstrate that the assembly never approved, the county executive never approved, the county assembly never approved this commitment of 18 million shillings for the personal comfort of an individual. Once the deputy governor had comfortably settled himself in the office, we will need the next set of evidence, now that he has 18 million for his personal comfort. We will need evidence to demonstrate that the first order of business was to look where the money was. Money is in procurement. And his first primary target, as the witnesses will demonstrate, was to start putting pressure on county procurement officers to interfere, again, contrary to the Procurement Act, with ongoing procurement processes. The first process, we will demonstrate through evidence, was a process that involved procurement of fertilizer and seeds. This procurement in the county's annual procurement plan and as allowed under the Act had been reserved for a special category of vulnerable people, youth, women, and persons with disabilities. It had been specifically reserved for you people and for you young people, and we will demonstrate through evidence what he did. Because he had an interest in it, he forced, and we will demonstrate, the county procurement officers to try to change and open the categorization from youth, open it to anybody, ignore special protections that the country and the county had given to a category. Because he must have had in mind people who didn't qualify as youth who should now get this particular tender. And we will demonstrate that. The end result of it was that that procurement process collapsed. The procurement officer who was constantly being harassed, being intimidated, being given pressure to effect the changes, had to terminate that process. We will demonstrate. And the culmination of it, how vicious this pressure was, it led to this officer, and evidence will show you, had to start writing emails to his superiors at 2 a.m. in the morning, explaining how he's being put under pressure to interfere with the procurement process to the benefit at the instigation of the deputy governor. And of import to note, we will demonstrate in his own evidence, he does admit that, yes, I was in charge of finance and I had to make inquiries on an ongoing procurement process. I must get instructions. Even the president himself does not get involved in procurement processes. Procurement is an insular process governed by the law. He has admitted, and we will be inviting you to consider that admission in his own witness statement. What does that admission of criminality mean? The next category of procurement that we will demonstrate was procurement involving county roads maintenance. A total of 86 contracts, roads were being affected, where the county had specified, and the evidence will show you, Mr. Chairman, senators, that this kind of procurement should be limited to that an individual cannot procure or bid in more than 2 contracts. The deputy governor was pushing that an individual director of a company can procure using even 10 or 20 or 30 companies. Open it up that one person, Willis Otieno, for example, as we'll demonstrate to you, is at liberty to register 20 companies and bid for all the 86 roads that are going to be affected. So he was opening it up to favor a restricted category of individual, and he did sought for the specifications to be changed. Evidence will show you how that ultimately confirms interference with the procurement law and an ongoing procurement process. Once the question of procurement and its assertment in that process had been established, we will lead you to the next part of what now was turning out to be total chaos, in my view, with due respect to all the members, was now a focus, primary and singular focus, on the payments of pending bills and any payment being made from the county coffers. We will need evidence to demonstrate that the deputy governor did forward a list of persons to be paid in preferential to other persons in this county. We will demonstrate that the county had established a process through which pending bills were supposed to be paid. That process involved many actors plus a subcommittee plus the county executive committee. He decided to single-handedly start forwarding names, telling the county finance officers, pay the following contractors. The evidence will show you that the deputy governor in essence stands to become a debt collection officer for contractors in the county. And we will ask the Honorable Senate and the members to consider that if a deputy governor should continue to be in office when now he turns to be one who is pushing for payments of individual contractors in ignorance of established county procedures and committees that are meant to look at all pending bills and make recommendations so that everybody has a fair chance. We will show you that in this kind of a setup, if allowed to permeate in the county or even the country, there are service providers in the county who will never get paid unless you have a deputy governor who is forwarding your name as an individual to pay for your services to be paid. We will also show through evidence that the deputy governor did put pressure on the county finance officer, and he will testify, demonstrating how he was under immense pressure to make this particular set of payments. Constant harassment to make payment to an identified group of contractors. When the county officers started resisting and insisting on the due process of the law, the enterprise turned and started now showing what we will show the honorable members. It became vicious. It now became, and that will inform the next chart that we are going through, an act of bullying. We will call the witness, who was the CFO, who in his testimony will tell you the kind of humiliation, the kind of threats, the public detriment he has been taken through as a public officer, as a servant of the people of Siaya. He has been turned into a funeral conversation in the whole of Alego County, sub-county, where every time his superior, the deputy governor, stood to speak, he will testify and show you. It was always that, Mr. Odinga, you've stolen. Mr. Odinga, you steal 20 million per day. Mr. Odinga, you've done... It just became an individual. All because this individual, as he will demonstrate to you, just insisted, let us follow the law in procurement, let us follow the law in making payments. He now became a subject of bullying. We will demonstrate again through Mr. Kwata how he was bullied, intimidated by the deputy governor, who was their superior in the county, just because they were asking that whatever you want to be done, we have county procedures, we have the law that needs to be followed. We will also demonstrate that despite this open public lynching of the officers of the county, the deputy governor never even at one given time wrote a singular complaint to any of their superiors, not even a single memo, saying that these officers have committed the following acts. The disciplinary proceedings, as we will demonstrate, of staff of the county of Siaya was now to be conducted through mob lynching in funerals. not through the established human manuals and procedures set out in the Public Service Act and the County Governments Act. It was all about a mob process where their superior stands up to say, you have stolen 20 million, you have done this, and not a singular. We will ask the Honorable Senate to consider, in light of that kind of conduct, and we even have existing state offices, ESCC, DCI, Auditor General, not a singular report made by the Deputy Governor in regard to these officers. We will also demonstrate that even in the cabinet meetings of this county, he never raised any of these issues that he was inciting the public against these particular officers. The bullying at its tail end turned now to a state, as the witness will demonstrate, that even their own personal safety was in question. They could not freely walk on the streets. The witnesses were breaking down in their houses. And they'll demonstrate to you the kind of agony and pain their families have had to go through. Just because they had stood up to insist that let us follow the law in procurement and in payment. Their payback was bullying. We will, in part conclusion, lead evidence to demonstrate the next phase that was deployed by the Deputy Governor against his own administration. The Deputy Governor that has forced that administration to hoist him on a 1.1 million chair, an individual. We will demonstrate that he decided to now engage in the next target, which was what is referred to as public incitement against his own administration. And this will show how that incitement took place. It starts by dividing Siaya County into clans. We are Alego people. Those are Sakwa people. Those are Gem people. Those are Uyoma people. Those are Arieda people. He starts dividing them into clans. And then specifically targets. And the evidence will show you. One particular clan, which also happens to be housing the county headquarters, that serves all the residents. He goes on a public campaign to start spreading malicious falsehoods that the Siaya Stadium has been de-resourced. Money has been taken away from the Siaya Stadium to benefit people of another sub-county, people of another clan. And we will show you, and we'll bring evidence, including videographic evidence, where he stands up to say, Alego people, you are the Tharakanithi of Siaya. You deserve more. No single cent can be taken away from Alego. Knowing very well, and we'll show by evidence, knowing very well that the contrary had happened. One of the priority projects which their administration had reallocated funds towards was, as the evidence will show, the completion of the Siaya Stadium that was in Alego. More money had actually been allocated for the completion of that particular stadium. And to demonstrate that all these were done intentionally, malice, in this disinformation, we will show you by evidence that the Deputy Governor was the chairperson of the Cabinet Subcommittee on the completion of the stadium, seized with all information and details in relation to the funding of that particular project. But he decides to go on a public spree to spread malicious falsehoods, abusing his position as a deputy governor to mislead the public, to achieve an objective or incitement against his own administration. He decides to go out again to address again the people of Alego, saying, the people of Alego, you are losing jobs. Jobs are being taken away from you. The county secretary, who is the county secretary for the whole of the county, has lost his job because he's from Alego. We will show evidence of him saying that. Yet the truth of the matter, and that witness will come before you, Mr. Chairman and members, will show you that the individual concerned was also in shock because he had voluntarily chosen to resign from his position and even gave a further date for that resignation to take effect. Then when he could not find more people from Alego to blame, he decides to turn his own officer to state, I am being disciplined because I am from Alego. An officer who is being disciplined for engaging in criminal acts of assault and is still undergoing a disciplinary process through the county independent of any role that is done in the deputy governor's office. We will show you all that was just part of public incitement against the people of Alego. We will need evidence to show you that at the end of all this, taking into totality of this kind of conduct, would it be fair within the framework of our constitution to maintain a deputy governor who is causing division, disunity, and disharmony amongst the various clans of the county? We will demonstrate that that is contrary to the Article 174 of the Constitution on the objects of devolution. We must be united in our diversity. Seized of these facts, of these particulars, we will show you that the county assembly was moved by a member properly elected to represent the people, moved a motion for impeachment, and the assembly relied on its procedures to arrive at a verdict to approve that motion at first instance. We will demonstrate that the assembly proceeded to engage the people of Siaya by calling for public participation, issuing a notice to the people. Whoever has any information in relation to this impeachment, please come ye forward and present it to us. Please come here and appear before the special committee of the assembly, just like this Senate has also, in recognizance of the Constitution, done. And the assembly was also minded, as we will demonstrate, that the impeachment process is time-bound, only 10 days. The assembly was also minded that Siaya is far-flung. Different parts of the county are spread. Residents are spread all over the country of Kenya. They gave the public 7 days to make their comments and to make their submissions on the impeachment. 7 days. We will show you. We will also demonstrate that the allegation of late submission of documents is a falsity. We will show you that the deputy governor, in response to the public invitation and to himself, requested for information before the 7 days for submission of documents matured. And this assembly, we will demonstrate, decided to supply whatever material had been received as at that time, even before the lapse of the 7 days. We will also show you that to demonstrate how minded the county assembly was to the due process, at the lapse of the 7 days, they further submitted all the materials that they had received in response to the public invitation that was relevant to this impeachment motion. We will show that the county assembly proceeded to conduct an open and unbiased hearing of the allegations against the deputy governor. At the end of that process, the deputy governor was asked to participate in the proceedings. He appeared as a witness. He was heard. He cannot be heard at this point to say, I was not given my right to a fair hearing. He appeared and he made representations and he was supplied with all the materials. The evidence will show you when we present it before this committee. Honorable members, at the end of the committee process, we will demonstrate to you what happened. What happened was this. The committee made a report, and the report was submitted to the assembly again in compliance with the standing orders. The people of Siaya, through their elected representatives at the assembly, convened. 42 members of the county assembly of Siaya convened on behalf of the people of Siaya to consider this report. They read through the particulars of the gross misconduct, abuse of office, gross violations of the Constitution by the deputy governor. 42 of them, the total number of members of the county assembly of Siaya, 42. 42 of them voted. And of the 42 of them, not even a single one, not even a single one, we will demonstrate, voted in opposition of that motion. The people of Siaya unanimously voted to remove the deputy governor as their leader. And why did they do so at this early stage? Somebody may ask. We will demonstrate to you. There is what we call catch them young. Don't allow a monster to grow. Don't complain about devolution 5 years into the term. When you notice that the tree is bending at the inceptive stage, cut it early. They decided they will not complain about devolution 5 years into the term of the new government. They decided, and we will demonstrate to you, that the parameters for removal had been achieved.
Chairman,
Yes,
my learned friend has done well, but heeding the caution from Senator Manzo, I'm not sure whether the type of language that he's now using is parliamentary language.
Which one in particular?
Cut them young. And suggesting that some sort of pruning is required. I don't know whether that is parliamentary language.
He has 9 minutes. Wind up. You have 9 minutes.
Apologies if it's just a phrase that you were taught when you were young. That sometimes Coca-Cola when
Chair.
Yes, Senator Mobile.
I think that's language just figurative, nothing in thought, nothing
Yeah,
abusive.
that's why I've told him to
Just
proceed.
figurative language.
Yeah, proceed. It's not abusive.
Sorry. They decided at the early stage, when they had seen the nature and the structure of what could be a criminal enterprise being established in their county, to nip it in the bud early enough. 42 of them against 0. Those people, in recognition of the laws of Kenya, have come before and they are bowing before the honorable senators. Please hear us. Please, our honorable senators, hear us. We will demonstrate to you that when they come before you and start asking that, please hear us, save us from what is going on in our county, we will be urging this Senate to hear their plea. Sometimes even when God wanted to save, and we'll show you in the Bible, a city, he will ask, just show me one righteous man. In Siaya they are saying, just show me even one single MCA that supported the deputy governor. And the answer will be not. And if it were God, God will say, I'll strike out that deputy governor. That is what they are coming before you in all humility to beg of you to allow them to be saved, and we'll be leading evidence towards that. And we will also show that the deputy, We will also show that the deputy governor, through his own evidence that is before you, has indicated on a sworn statement, I don't believe in collective responsibility. I am not bound by the cabinet of the county. That is the man that will be asking you to send him back to that county executive. That will be the man that will be asking you to send him back to the county assembly, who has said, I don't believe in collective responsibility, through his own statement before you, which we'll show you. We will, at conclusion, say that the continued occupation of the office of Deputy Governor of Siaya by one Mr. William Oduol constitutes an existential threat to the people of Siaya, who are now forced, some of them, to sleep in mats. Some of them cannot access medical facilities. Some of them are out of school when he is sitting on a 1.1 million chair and signing on a presidential desk worth 1 million at their expense. That is what we'll be asking you. They have said no, and we'll be begging this Senate to heed to their plea and to listen to their cry and to save them from this that is almost turning out to be an iniquity on devolution. That will be the nature of evidence. As I sit down, honorable senators, in summary, in terms of our case, we'll be calling 4 witnesses. And the 4 witnesses will take you through what I've done, pointing you out to the specific excerpts of the report. In terms of procedure, my learned colleague, Mr. Gordon, will lead our witnesses, and my learned colleague, Mr. Wanyama, will do our closing summations. We thank you very much for the opportunity, and we urge that you consider this in your determination.
Chairman, on a light one.
Yeah, just hold on first. You've done well. You've taken 35 minutes. You still had 5 minutes to say something, but thank you for the donation. Honorable members, you know, these are the opening remarks. And the opening remarks, there is no witness that we are going to ask questions. Basically, he's laying the foundation. He's setting up the climate on how they are going to adjudicate. So basically, at this particular stage, we will not entertain questions because it was just a general summary of what they are going to present as within the 3.5 hours. We are going to give them after the Deputy Governor's Council himself gives the preliminary. While also Willis was talking, an MP also from Shire County, Elisha Odhiambo, also came as a friend of the committee because this is his county. But I'll not entertain questions. Just say, if it's a comment, you say comment. Because he'll not respond.
Chairman, it's not a question.
Okay, fine.
I was only wondering now that the Supreme Court allowed Willis Otieno to sing, whether he's going to sing today.
Maybe we can use him as our interpreter later on when we have the Luo video. That's out of good. The council for
Chairman,
yeah.
We have listened keenly to what my good and learned friend Mr. Willis Otieno has said in his opening statement.
Yes.
In the documents that we
I want to give you. You know, we are not doing any cross examination. I want to give you 40 minutes.
We have started on our 40 minutes.
Good.
We will share it.
Start.
We will share it with the Deputy Governor. He will start and I will conclude.
Yes.
But really just as an initial opening observation, we have listened keenly to the submission by my good and learned friend, Mr. Willis Otieno.
That's why you are being paid.
And we have also received the documents from SEA in their entirety. Sadly, we do not see any of that evidence in the documents, but we look forward to hearing their witnesses.
Thank you very much, Chair and the committee. Again, My name is CPA Dr. William Oduol. I'm the Deputy Governor for Siaya County. On the same breath, Chair, and the committee, I have listened to the Council for the Assembly, and you see the beauty of this Senate House.
You know, to make it neat, honorable members, if you desire maybe a minute or 2 minutes break so that we don't disrupt, you can have some tea instead of bringing tea inside here. Yeah, please, so that... good, proceed.
So the beauty of this Senate House is that it is a house of records. Yes. Let me use this. The beauty. Excellent. So, the beauty of this Senate House chair and the committee is that this house is a house of records and it's a house of evidence. So, it doesn't matter how high you raise your voice, how passionate you make your submissions, or how elevated your voice is. It is going to be decided on the basis of the evidence and the submissions that you make.
Richie, what you can do, you can sit down.
I sit down.
Yeah, you can sit down so that...
So, Chair and Committee, if you allow me, I just want to give context and so that everyone else can understand what informed the impeachment that is before us. And for that, I want to give a bit of background, and then I will continue to make my opening statement. So we came to office on the 26th of August last year, Chair. And my good friend James Orengo, the governor for Siaya County, and myself ran under particular basic tenets. And those tenets were around good governance, transparency, accountability, and active public participation. By training, Chair, I'm an accountant. By training, I also am a leadership and governance expert. My PhD is in leadership and governance. I am a professional with a strong background in management and administration. So the combination of James Orengo and William Oduol for Siaya County, we believed was going to catapult or accelerate development in that particular county. Looking at James Orengo's fine legal mind and William Oduol, this global business leader, those two leaders brought together the people of Siaya believed, and I still believe was the perfect combination to take Siaya to greater heights. When we started Chair and Committee, we started very well. And in the first 3 months, James Orengo, and in his defense, identified the unique competencies and skills that I have around finance and operations. And using his own discretion, decided to delegate some of the finance responsibilities to me. So in the month of October, the 6th, last year, he did appoint Mr. Jack Odinga as acting Chief Officer Finance, and in that appointment letter also delegated the finance responsibility to me. And one of the statements that he made on that particular letter was that besides Jack Odinga reporting to the Minister for Finance, the CECM Finance, he was also expected to give me briefings on a weekly basis or as frequently as was required. So the first 3 months, when we started with Governor James Orengo, we started very well. And one of my mandates, given my background, was to institute robust and strong internal controls, particularly around finance, Chair, because that's really where the county was hemorrhaging. Siaya County had been in the press for all the wrong reasons. You know, theft of 600 million, 400 million. The year 2021, 2022, Siaya County lost 1 billion. And over the 2 years, Siaya County lost 2 billion. Chair and committee, these are evidenced. We have now Kenya National Audit report. We also had the Owuko report and the internal audit report that confirmed those particular data points that I'm talking about. Now, towards the end of November, Chair, Chair and committee, I noticed during the periodic weekly briefings that Jack Odinga, the acting CFO, was giving me, I noticed during some of my briefings with him abnormally huge withdrawals from Imprest. And so I summoned him to my office and I asked him why we were making huge withdrawals from Imprest. Now, Imprest, Chair and Committee, is allowed by Public Finance Management Act. The PFM Act allows counties, through accounting officers, to open Imprest accounts. However, there is restriction to the limit to how much you can withdraw from Imprest account. Because generally, most transactions for audit trail are supposed to pass through IFMIS, because that way you are able to track and establish the reasonableness of the spend. But when you transfer money from, say, a revenue account, recurrent account, to Imprest, then you lose your audit trail. So, ideally, Imprest is petty cash. It's for emergency. And so, if you're withdrawing 200, 300,000 from Imprest account, that is okay. But in instances where you're withdrawing 1 million, 2 million, in the case of Siaya County, 5 million, 6 million, sometimes 10 million, that is not Imprest. That would generally pass for normal business operations. And as a consequence, Chair and committee, that ideally should be passing through IFMIS. Now, when I summoned Jack Odinga to my office and I asked him where all these withdrawals were going to, because they were abnormal and were huge and were happening in very close frequencies, every 2 to 3 days, 2 million here, 3 million there, 6 million there. And Chair and committee, it would also interest you to note that these withdrawals, one junior officer would be sent to the bank on one particular day. A junior officer, one individual, walks to the bank and withdraws 4, 5, 6 times. 900,000, 950,000, circumventing the central bank requirement of 1 million. Because if you're withdrawing more than 1 million, then you need to, of course, have documentation and show where the money is going to. So basically, what Siaya County would do in a bid to withdraw 5, 6, 4 million, they would send one junior officer. Presumably, this junior officer would go to the bank and in the morning say 8 or 9 o'clock, withdraw 900. 11 o'clock, another 900. 2 o'clock, another 900. In a day, one junior officer, 5 million, 6 million. The question I ask, If these are legitimate business expenditure, why wouldn't you just write one check for 1 million and state the reason? And that officer just goes to the bank once and withdraws the money. So when I invited Jack Odinga to explain to me, chair and committee, he was initially cagey. Then I threatened that I was going to invite EACC. And then he confessed to me that he would draw this money and take to the governor, Governor James Orengo. I was not convinced. So I decided...
Yes, Senior Counsel Mukeni.
Chair. You know, we have rules of procedure, and I expected the governor to make his opening remarks that will target his response to the accusations that are facing him. But what I've heard for the last 10 minutes, he is making a speech that does not relate to the allegations that are facing him. So, and also, I think he's a senior citizen. He knows that some adverse remarks cannot be made against persons who are not in these proceedings to defend themselves. So, Chair, you need to guide the witness to restrict himself to the allegations that are facing him and that are relevant to the proceedings that we are having this morning. Chair.
Onyonga, please.
Thank you, Chair. I completely agree with what Senior Counsel Mogeni has said. The other issue that I wanted to bring to the attention of the DG and maybe your counsel is that the Senate will accept either reports that have been presented by statutory bodies like OAG, like ESCC, and the DCI. If you have such information and you have tabled it here and it's available, please note that information so that we are able to read and understand what you're saying. Because right now, you're talking about corruption issues. I know that the presentation which was made by counsel was based on that kind of framework. But if that is really what you want to do, wouldn't it be more beautiful if you can actually respond to the issues that he has alleged against you?
Manso.
Yeah, Chair, just on an issue of procedure, the Deputy Governor is a witness in these proceedings, and instead of making opening remarks, he's already giving evidence. So is he then not subject for cross-examination, although he's giving evidence at the wrong time? Because I believe there will be his own time to come and defend himself.
Good. DG and your counsel, what I want you to do is to withdraw the name of Orengo, because we are not discussing the governor of Shire here. Later on, when you sit there as a witness, and it is in record, and you also have it's in your response, that is the time you can mention his name. Odinga is, at least is part of the witnesses that we are going to interrogate later on. So what I want you to do, focus on your charges. And then save time, because the way you're going, your counsel is unlikely to have any opportunity to have a preliminary submission. So you would have given him an opportunity, and then later on, because what you are saying, you'll have all your time to to submit. So please, let's focus. Let's not make very wild allocations that are not what. Later on, we will interrogate you on that, please. Yes, Counsel.
Chairman, that unfortunately is the extent of the Deputy Governor's defense. In his defense and in his response, he states categorically that according to him, these issues started before the timeline that was set out in Mr. Willis Otieno's submission. Mr. Willis Otieno took all the time that he required to allege that my client is seated on a throne and nobody interrupted him. My client is merely giving context to his response, and whatever he is saying is in his response. And what he pleads for is an opportunity to use his 40 minutes and to make his opening statement. His truth is different from that of the county assembly, and I believe he's entitled to say.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I went and tried to inquire with governor, and governor said that he was not receiving the money. And he's my governor, so I did not put him under a lot of task. But I knew, chair and committee, that since I had already brought it to his attention, if he was doing it, at least that was would act as a deterrent. So this continued to the month of December. I saw, again through Impressed, over 40 million withdrawn. And in record 3 months between November to January, more than 100 million had been withdrawn through Impressed. I noticed in January our relationship, because Governor and I used to have a fairly tight relationship. We would consult virtually every day. But after I confronted him, I noticed that he was disengaging. And January timeframe, our communication lines had basically reduced, significantly reduced. Now, chair and committee, the final nail in the coffin, and the reason I decided to go to the public, because I'm giving context so that you understand how the Assembly, the General Oversight Committee, invited me. The final nail in the coffin was sometime in February this year. A governor, without consultation, as was the practice, and against his own minister's professional advice, the Minister for Finance, appointed particular individuals, reshuffled finance, and returned individuals that were under investigation by EACC to their original positions. Individuals that were under investigation for the theft of 600 million and 400 million, and we will be demonstrating this later on over the next 2 days.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Honorable Chair.
Yes, Catherine.
I think colleagues raised earlier, is the governor on trial in this matter? I have read documents, the documents prior, and I think the DG is actually not responding to the charges against him.
So, DG, you know, I'd said let's just give without mentioning the governor, please, so that
I'm guided.
You know you are raising a lot of unnecessary interruptions.
I'm guided, Chair.
Yeah, please. So
okay.
Yes, Abbas.
I think it's inappropriate for the DG to invoke the name of the governor every time.
Okay.
And it's actually not going back to, I mean, this is the case we're handling. And it's talking so much over management issues and what has been happening between him and the IG, the DG, sorry, the governor. So I think I want him to come back to the courthouse here, to the Senate.
Miraj, please.
Chair, I'm asking whatever the DG submitting in, is it in his response that we have with us? No, just, I mean, let him.
Yes, it is. Yes,
chair.
it is, Chair. It is in my response.
Which document?
You mentioned,
Which page?
You mentioned the governor's name in your response?
Yes, I have.
Which page? We have to make reference because we should not submit new.
Yeah, you know, in this particular state also, I had said earlier that we are just doing it generally.
Yeah.
So I wish the DG, what you believe can bring some issues at this stage, you could restrict yourself so that at the right time, you focus on that.
My chair.
Yes, Miraj?
I think it is fair enough if whatever context is bringing is in the documents that we have, he should be let to tell why we are here today. He should be left to bring his case, to build his case. It is not fair for him to be stopped now and now again. It's not fair. I heard the other members speaking and building their case. Let him be. If for sure whatever he's saying is in his response, then he should be let to be. Just not to mention the governor's name. If it will make some of us comfortable,
so Willis,
then we should not mention.
You know, these are 11 members. Out of these 11 members, we are all impartial. And since we're impartial, you know, Willis mentioned you because you are the one who is on the trial here. So for the governor, just you can mention an office. You don't have to mention by name. So that we move. Then now we'll give the county assembly now an opportunity where witnesses will be called. Members will now ask questions and interrogate. Then the opportunity will be tomorrow. Okay. Just give a general idea so that at least, you know, everybody understands really how you're going to defend yourself tomorrow.
Chair, I'm guided, but just to respond to the committee members' question,
You don't respond to any question for now.
Okay. All right. So the final nail in the coffin was the reshuffle that I just talked about, returning people that were under investigation by EACC back to their previous positions. And so when that happened, and I was not consulted, I decided to go to the electorate. And this is when I started talking about the theft and the misappropriation of finances in the executive. At that point in time, Chair, I was then invited, someone by the Assembly, to go and explain the utterance, the political statements that I had made in some funeral. So on the 12th of April, I went to the Assembly with the evidence, with the hope that I was going to give my oral submission as I presented my written evidence. But the Assembly refused and asked me to submit my written evidence, which written evidence I submitted 2 days later. In my submission, I had mentioned some officers adversely. I expected the General Oversight Committee to seek responses from those officers that I had mentioned adversely, which they did. And I had also hoped that subsequently, once the officers responded, they were going to invite me to go and make rebuttals. Unfortunately, Chair, and this is something I have not understood, the General Oversight Committee never afforded me the opportunity to go and make rebuttals based on the responses that the officers had given them. Remember, I was the whistleblower. I am the one that raised aspects of theft, aspects of misappropriation from the executive. But the General Oversight Committee, on their own motion, decided to make a determination without affording me the opportunity, Chair and Committee, to go and respond to the officers' responses. So a determination was made on the 29th of May on the allegations or the summonses that they had made, and which determination mentioned that my allegations were not substantiated. Now, how was I going to substantiate if I was not given the opportunity to substantiate? And they also went ahead, the General Oversight Committee, in adopting the report of the committee, also made 2 recommendations. One, they censured me, and secondly, they asked me to, in future, ensure that I followed the internal grievance resolution mechanism. Nowhere, Chair and Committee, and this is the other important aspect, nowhere did they recommend impeachment against the person of the Deputy Governor. Now, the grounds and the facts that are before you, Chair and Committee, are similar to the same grounds and facts that was before the General Oversight Committee. What am I saying, Chair and Committee? I am saying that the Assembly was in violation of my constitutional rights, particularly around the principle of double jeopardy. They seem to be trying me twice,
Because on that 29th day of May, when the General Oversight Committee presented their report and adopted, that is the very day that Mheshimiwa Gordon Onguru brought up the impeachment motion against me. So if it pleases you, Chair and Committee, I would like the team to take note of that I seem to be tried twice. Chair, allow me to now read my opening statement, which will take me about 2-3 minutes, and then the remainder of the time I'll donate to my council. Mr. Chairman, and together with your team, let me convey my gratitude for granting me the opportunity to share the pains of this inquiry. My fidelity to the Constitution of Kenya is whole, complete, and total. Siaya County is the home of Kenya's foremost crusader for devolution, the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But on the ground today, Siaya is very sick. The county is reeling from poverty. We are a national laughingstock. It is a pale shadow, Chair and Committee, of its glorious past as home of great leaders, statesmen, and women. Mr. Chairman and your committee, pettiness cannot be allowed to stand in the face of such overwhelming problems in the county, where children sleep hungry for lack of food, people die for lack of basic medicine, and youth drop out of school for lack of fees. This respectable House, this Senate, must save Siaya and salvage devolution from its deathbed. And I'm looking forward to the Senate being the impartial juror. Mr. Chair and your committee, you owe it to the people of Kenya to protect devolution, and particularly the seat of deputy governor. My case is not unique. We have seen from across the country wrangles between governors and their deputy. And I hope with these proceedings, we would be able to come up with resolutions that would hopefully address the wrangles that permeate across the county between governors and their deputies. Mr. Chairman, the nature of my impeachment at the county assembly level was narrow, ill-informed, limited, misguided, and choreographed to favor those abetting high crimes. I have been targeted simply because I am opposed to maladministration. I have challenged the status quo, chair and committee, and insisted on strict internal controls. I am the proverbial hunter that has become the hunted. The drawing of political lines informs and oils the motivation behind the impeachment motion against me. Throughout Siaya County and even among sons and daughters of Siaya living away from home, the prosecution and my subsequent impeachment at the county assembly has failed to ignite the passions of the whole community. Mr. Chairman, the impeachment criteria lacked basic tenets of democracy. The criteria betrays public trust, is full of assertions. The allegations in the articles of impeachment are very scandalous, vexatious, and frivolous. To the great people of Siaya County, freedom is coming home. Some of our forefathers who fought for liberation never lived to enjoy it. I am prepared to pay the ultimate price to defend your constitutional rights and privileges, especially the downtrodden lot in my county, the mama bogas, the bebas, and the border borders. I shall at all times fight for you, for your freedom, and for that which is yours. I promise to never let cartels and their mandarins eat your money. Only in my death will they pilfer, steal, and expropriate your money. I am still committed to delivering our 9 points manifesto. I hope my good friend
my governor is equally committed to delivering that manifesto. But even as we deliver these basic tenets that informed our coming to power must and will always be observed. Good governance, rule of law, transparency, and accountability, including, and very importantly, active public participation. Stay tuned over the next 2 days as we unpack the CIA and the leadership that you should never elect, fellow countrymen. As I conclude, Chair and the committee, I have every confidence in the Senate and indeed in this committee's ability to carry out an impartial review. We cannot, and I repeat, we cannot be talking of corruption at the national level, and this is important, and want to close our eyes and block our ears to corruption in Siaya. May justice be our shield and defender. May it be served unto the people of Siaya. God bless you, Chair, and your committee. God bless Siaya, and my very, very best. Thank you very much. Allow me then to now donate the remainder of my time to my council chair.
Good. You have about 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, members of the committee. Just briefly, I wish to emphasize a few things that the Deputy Governor has said and expand on one or two important points of law. I wish to state at the outset of my opening statement that the Deputy Governor, as he appears before you this morning, during the rest of the day today and tomorrow, has nothing to prove. He enjoys a presumption of innocence. The duty to prove lays squarely on the shoulders of the County Assembly, his accusers, during this process, and it is for them to prove the lofty allegations that are contained in the motion of impeachment and that have been repeated during the opening statement by my good and learned friend this morning. Secondly, Chairman and members of the committee, we will be inviting you to conclude that what took place before the County Assembly of Siaya was a sham or a travesty. The proceedings before the County Assembly of Siaya were foreign to the Constitution. They are not proceedings that were envisaged by the Constitution, and they are not proceedings that can bring forth any legitimate impeachment proceedings. We are glad that the Deputy Governor will have his opportunity to testify. He will speak his truth, and he will add substance to the submissions that I have made. The proceedings were against the basic tenets of natural justice. We will establish in our evidence, and we will establish in the process of testing the County Assembly's evidence, that the County Assembly had arrived at a conclusion. Let's get rid of the Deputy Governor. And they then worked backwards. That is not what the people of Kenya intended by impeachment proceedings. Impeachment proceedings must be objective, and they must be founded on law. It brings me conveniently to my next point. We urge the Senate, we urge this committee of the Senate to bear in mind the thresholds for impeachment. Impeachment has taken place a few times. Many motions of impeachment have come. Some have been successful here, others have not. The courts have had an opportunity to pronounce themselves as to what the thresholds for impeachment are. I'm glad to note that in the authorities that were presented to us this morning, many of those authorities exist. We urge this committee, when you retire, to consider your decision in this matter to be guided by the law on the thresholds of impeachment. It is our position during the early stages of this hearing that none of the allegations or none of the articles of impeachment as framed by the County Assembly passes the threshold. There is no evidence. They are hollow allegations. We are glad to note, Mr. Bona Chairman, that your affirmation that you and your committee will be fair. And Chairman and members of the committee, you will appreciate the reason for our gratitude once you have an opportunity to examine in detail the proceedings that took place before the Siaya County Assembly. They were anything but fair, they were anything but objective, and we look forward to fairness and objectivity from this committee. I thank you very much for that opportunity.
Madam Honorable members, it's now around 12:24, going to 12:30. And there is something that we need to dispense, especially on counter-checking the documents that were sent by email. But before we do that, I'm proposing that we take a 10 minutes break. 12:25, we reconvene at 12:35, so that at least, members can stretch their legs, and there are also senior members here who can do other things. We adjourn until 12:35.
Ini bro ng'eyo ni mama ni otimo ni gik mang'eny gi engimani nikech ing'e ni an ok adwar wich kuot moro amora.
Her bende okaw simbe. Ng'e kaka polose lo. Nyaka sani akia kuma manav nitie. Nyasaye rit ne nyathinano.
Amrito ok nyal yie gi gimoro amora miwachona. Ang'e ni mama ok nyal timo gima lich machal kamano. An ang'e ni ok onyal.
Ansani akwayi ni mondo iyie koda.
Dial *334# to enjoy 1 GB at 50 Kenya shillings for 24 hours. Bundle exclusively available on Airtel Money.
Okay, nimeshasetiwa hiyo 1 GB. Sana data yako kakuku tu.
Chenro makeluni gigo mamit.
Rambada. Ura.
Gikeluni weche mamolo e pacho ka.
Be lo. Nyanya kaji nyathingo ng'ato gero ot mochung' gi chama.
Gima wuok e pinje maoko.
Itoni kia kato koro Paris.
Gitwak mamulo rowere gi oganda duto.
Mana kuom nyithindo ma neno wasani. Winjane janyuol. Janyuol ngi maber ahinya.
Timne ng'ato gima imbe kotimi to ni winje maber.
Yud danje maliet.
Inyalo kwayo thum kidwaro ma kaka Talanta bro goni studio kaendi.
Mane mbak ndalo chakre wuok tich nyaka tich abich saa 8 odiochieng'. Ibonuo chakre saa 7 otieno mane Ramogi TV.
Jatelo mano biro kae nyoro. Odwari warus kodi.
Hera motwere kidi Lwanda omuoche kindo osiepe ariyo.
Jitengi.
Neno no kende ok nyal romo. Wange gi nyaka.
Miriambo thinyore lela kendo kelo mirima kod lit.
Anang'eni do ng'at maber kaka.
Bende anyuola kod osiepe nyalo donjo e kindo osiepe ariyogi.
Bedi. Eno kohera kata matin.
Inyalo chopo kanya gi jal ma ihero kiling'ling'.
Ne Suresh ni oko. Ibende biwadhi. Ng'at mabo kendo Pragia. Ng'ano nigi hawi.
Kikiwe ma okineno sigana mar hera motwere mar kumkum bagia.
Ok anyal yudo yo manyalo wacho nigo ni aheri.
Yud chenro mar kumkum bagia gi dholuo sani koro e View sasa. Ohala gi mwandu wakelo ni jolony e weche ohala.
It is important mondo wan kaka joluo wabed gi dongruok.
Wafwenyo ni adiera matut mag timo ohala.
Tijni kidwa time en mana mashin mar luoko to gi kuma inyalo yude pi.
Wawuoyo e wi yore makare mag timo ohala.
Kisechopo level mabedo brand ono beni gimoro amora mitimo en gima timo ang'o makelo pesa.
Wakonyi dongo ohandi ka wamiyi yore mag kano mwandu.
Investment group kawache mana gi nyinge no en choko pesa kasto ikete kamoro kasto golo nyinyo
mabiro konyi e kinde mabiro.
Omiyo wakwayo ni ji duto ket pesa gi e savings mondo wapuonji kaka gibiro tiyo godo.
Riwri kodwa chieng' tich ang'wen saa 1:45 otieno mana e Ramogi TV.
Kiyudo gimoro e belni to mano kare yano.
Gikomba gokinyi safaro sayawa.
Palomino chiena tandora mojonya.
Kit thumbe ma wakelonu otenore e ndhadhu maggi. Kae kama chokruok nitie.
Orchestra Super Hakiaki. Kidola Kabari. Wabiro.
Chakre Orutu, nyaka Wangla, nyaka Benga, budho mara Tiporiti. Michael Onigi DJ Kolo kod instrumental, kod Ninja the Entertainer. Ramogi Night, Ticha Beach ka Ticha Beach, Sang'wen otieno.
Ji adek owito ngimagi bang' nyamburko gi nyono miruti mochike bwolo e apaya ma Banisa e kaunti ma Mandera. Bura mar Thicho ko jalup gavana ma Siaya William Oduol ochopo e SENET kawuono. Duol mochung' ne kuoyo pi e puothe timo limbe mar yaro lach mag puothe e alwora mar Imbo mar piny Kenya.
Weche manyien mamulo dhod chunyi maiye gin mago machiegni kodi. Weche thieth, anyuola, ohala to kata rita. Ka otuch to wan kode.
Kotimore skunde e gweng'u ne wedeni kata osiepe magi duto wan go. Wan kae mar neno ni ng'eyo gima biro kendo bedo gi ikruok motegno.
Onego ing'e gima timore e seche motimore mapiyo piyo to mae e kama iyude wechego. Nikech Kenya en marwa waduto to Ramogi TV en odwa.
To kendo wantie iye kanyakla achiel kaka onagi.
Ma en rupiny kod mbaka oromo. E Ramogi TV.
Sud machiegni mondo wago mbaka.
Kiyudo gimoro e belni to mano kariano.
Gikomba gokinyi safaro se yawa.
Palomino chiena tandora mojonya.
Kit thumbe ma wakelonu otenore e ndhadhu maggi. Kae kama chokruok nitie.
Orchestra Super Hakiaki. Kidola Kabari. Wabiro.
Chakre Orutu, nyaka Wangla, nyaka Benga, budho mara Tiporiti. Michael Onigi DJ Kolo kod instrumental, kod Ninja the Entertainer. Ramogi Night, Ticha Beach ka Ticha Beach, Sang'wen otieno. Ma en sigand hera. Bedo ng'at moher,
pile pile abo bedo kodi.
Kod ero ng'ato.
Abe abo eri nyaka chieng'.
Wuoth mar nyako marawera manigi chuny motegno.
Mama, kapo ni dwa kumo ng'ato to kuma an.
To loso chikene owuon.
Kiwuoyo go wadwa majaga. Nyise ni inidwa kenda mapiyo.
Kata bedo ni joot osiko ka gitemo ng'ado ne paro e gima gidwaro.
En ng'ama chal nade midwa ni mondo kend mehe.
Wachna.
Ma e ng'ama dwaro. Ining'eyo kaka ich wang' mar mama ni chal. Anyalo timoni gima rach.
Be hera gibiro tony nyaka giko. Choti Sardani, Sario gi dakika 15 otieno. E Ramogi TV. E pewe mag tuke mayiero,
hero mar adhula,
kendo ipako gi ilo. Tudri kod James Opondo, japicha, gi Milton Ochieng Jaka Black e pau tuke. Chieng' ngeso ka ngeso, chakre sa 8 odiochieng' nyaka sa 10. Mana e Ramogi TV. Kanyiero kod mor dhi nyime,
Inde mone nadwa bedo lawyer. Kakoro piene mininde okinya ban.
weche mopondo be medo ng'eyore.
Mushene dwa participation. Ni winjo.
Pesa na mise cham. Oinga yie nyaka garus combine.
To kwe kethore kind ji.
Bona wewe wanamgwenya sisi.
Onjaore.
Ma town, to ng'ato ka ng'ato temo mana tony.
Yani mtaani sani ji tema pek. Dinga ni dala.
Nyar kochia, tich abich ka tich abich, saa 1:45 otieno. Sasa ya mawagamo muya, wayudo ngima. Sasa ya mawayudo rieko, wareso ngima ng'ato.
Dr. Satiriosus onego beni lorore, foramen oval onego beni lorore.
Penj laktar, kelo ng'eyo matut, gero oganda gi puonj mok inyal yudo kumoro amora mag weche thieth.
Diwacho ni gima koyud chon, tinyalo thiedhe ma ng'ato chang chuth.
Kabisa. Or ote machuok gi penjo moluwore gi weche thieth. Tudri kodwa e nambani. Kata inyalo ywa tole nambani. Riwri kod Ruth Otieno, wuok tich nyaka tich abich, saa 12 odhiambo, mana e Ramogi TV.
Semana chake na kuromoga juang moto kama pasi ya ilongoni moto ebele. Dano moro kabisa fan page mar Ramogi TV, dano ng'eny kae kabisa. Kidonjo thum ma serious ikete ngoma oake.
Under the pressure, yeah,
Kete manaka kod Papa Vic, ngoma wake, wuok tich nyaka tich abich, saa 10 odhiambo, nyaka saa 12. Radio Ramogi, Cartoon Jaluo. Radio Ramogi. E ohala gi mwandu, wakelo ni jolony e weche ohala.
It is important mondo wan kaka joluo wabed gi dongruok.
Wafwenyo ni adiera matut mag timo ohala.
Tijni kidwa time en mana mashin mar luoko to gi kuma inyalo yude pi.
Wawuoyo e wi yore makare mag timo ohala.
Kisechopo level mabedo brand, onego ni gimoro amora mitimo en gima timo ang'o makelo pesa.
Wakonyi dongo ohandi ka wamiyi yore mag kano mwandu.
Investment group kawache mana gi nyinge no en choko pesa kasto ikete kamoro kasto golo nyinyo
mabiro konyi e kinde mabiro.
Omiyo wakwayo ni ji duto ket pesa gi e savings mondo wapuonji kaka gibiro tiyo godo.
Riwri kodwa chieng' tich ang'wen saa 1:45 otieno mana e Ramogi TV.
Profesa